the Sanctuary of Light and the Light Institute welcome each and all of you to this time of knowings and invite you to bring forward the questions of your hearts so that as your hearts are touched, you can be the instrument of peace, of wisdom, of opening to everyone around you. So, please begin. Yes.
What would you say about people who hold on to money? For instance, someone owes you something, or you're doing a joint venture and they're holding monies that belong to you or another person, and then they wait and don't say anything about it, and then they give it to you at the very last minute. What would be the spiritual foundation of that?
Well, the only reference point in terms of spiritual foundation would be psychogenetics, echoes from other lifetimes, from imprints in this lifetime about the self in relationship to money, that they must hold onto it. That is a value for many people. The better you hold on to your money, the more honorable you are. There's always fear underlying those kinds of behavior patterns. What if I lose it? And very often those kinds of conversations come because we don't feel that we deserve it, we inherited it, somebody entrusted it to us, and so we feel that we have to hold it. And so we don't see our partner as, we don't see them at all. We're all cocooned into how I must hold on to this money. And so if this is happening to you, it's always an interesting conversation in terms of karma. What is our own relationship to that? How can we free the other person? Not because they owe us, not because they should give it to us, but because some part of them has fear of the self, that the self has no value unless they have this money. We have many, many Judeo-Christic points of reference in terms of the ethics of money, and how we should work hard, for example, to earn money. It isn't something that can be just given to you. So if you have that kind of a thought form, even unconsciously, you're not going to be very fluid with that money. Even when it's not yours, when you have plenty of money and you could pass it out, you're still going to hold, because those thought forms, those psychogenetic imprints, are deeply ingrained in the genetic encoding. And so there are several avenues for someone who's on the other side of that. One is to help somebody become aware of it. Are you aware that you're holding this money till the last second? Are you afraid? Are you less valuable if you don't have this money? I recommend just giving them the imprint that can allow them to think about that, because mostly they're not aware of it, or they have whisperings inside themselves that justify, I don't have to give it to you until the last second, or you really didn't earn it, I did all of the work. There are millions of internal conversations that go on. So you can bring it to their attention. Are you aware that you do this? And what's the reason? And then, of course, from the highest spiritual perspective, to recognize that if it's being played across from you, instead of just saying, well, this must be my karma, I must have done this in another lifetime. Well, now is the moment to balance it. Now is the moment to rid yourself of that karma, not just play it out or suffer the consequences lifetime after lifetime, but rather to, with the power of consciousness, what is the frequency of light that you need from me so that you can let go and we can come into this new relationship where you are not holding out. In effect, they're not holding out against you. They're holding out in terms of their own conversations.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yes.
wondering what those, so it's all those conversations
It's
compiled.
all of those
and-
things. And again, you want to come to it through those 2 points. Illuminating for them that they are doing it because they may not be aware of it, and allowing them to listen to themselves expressing what they may never have been aware of that's inside them. I feel that I should hold on to it. And then all the justifications of that. Because once people begin to speak, even if they're defensive or defending their perspective, they are listening to themselves. And so as emotional mind functions, they'll go home and they'll replay the conversation. And as they replay the conversation, eventually they'll begin to hear that something's not quite balanced inside themselves. That the justification isn't quite perfect. And that may help to illuminate them to be able to let go of it. And then the other is simply for you, from that higher octave of consciousness, to extend frequencies of light, colors to them, which will shift the emotional mind, shift their perspective. Maybe they have to open their heart. Maybe they have to dissolve some of that fear. Maybe they need to become aware that they are not their parents or their religions or any of the other cultural, familial imprints, even karmic imprints that have brought them to that place of squeezing. Many people are squeezing today, and they find all kinds of, they find all kinds of justifications. Well, the economy, but where am I going to keep my job, etc., etc. And if we could simply show them the cosmic laws of energy, which are, you must let go. Not squeeze, but let go, because that's what brings it back to you. You are always the source of your abundance. It's not your age, it's not your education, it's not even your creativity. It perhaps could be your willingness to receive. And so, there's really nothing outside us. There is no external boogeyman that's going to take the money from us, as if it were a limited supply. They took it and then that's that. No, as long as you draw breath, you will be the source of your abundance or your scarcity through the chatter, the inner chatter that goes on inside you. So you've asked a question that's very germane to this moment, that we all need to begin to look at. What are my patterns in terms of wealth? What are my fears that cause me to hold money? How do I still play king of the mountain? I have to take care of me. And if you have to wait for yours, well, too bad. All of those conversations need to be brought forward and released. This is one of the purposes in terms of spiritual foundations, that we are collectively, globally, going through this particular initiation of manifestation.
Thank you. May I tack on another question to that?
Yes.
This particular person, family, by the way, if it weren't me, it'd be somebody else, like you were just saying. But he was born with that. And what is the relationship between that kind of person who does squeeze and is very grabby about that, to the eyes that are really close set together?
Yes, in Chinese face reading, we would say people who have eyes that are very close in to the ridge of their nose, it's an indication of stinginess. Stinginess, holding on. And the person who has the eyes very close will always be looking out for how they can stockpile whatever it is that they're stockpiling. And so stinginess, selfishness, me first, and that is a trend that has been identified for eons of times in terms of Chinese face reading, and I find that to be true. So what could you do if you looked in the mirror and found yourself to have there? There's nobody here that has that. You might want to have some cranials and move your eyes to the side, or simply, again, use your consciousness to begin to explore from whom did I inherit that patterning? You would find those kinds of eyes in your family. We are never stuck with the body that we're born with. We are never stuck with the patterns that we're born with once we have that consciousness. So if a person really felt, I don't want to be stingy, I want to be loving, I want to change, I want to reinvent myself, they definitely could begin to work on the capacity to be the giver and to feel that opening and energy flowing out. And as they did that, their eyes would separate. And again, a very quick way to do that is to have cranials. Because cranials will move the 26 bones of the head. And certainly the kind that we do at the Light Institute are very much involved in the sphenoids, or the eyes, the balancing of the eyes, the opening of the eyes, because the eyes, again, the left eye represents the inner vision, the right eye, the ego or the outer vision. So the eyes tell us the story of the soul.
Thank you.
Could you talk about competition in terms of, kind of the thought forms underneath competition and where that, kind of the roots of competition?
Again, that segues into exactly what we were just discussing, that me first kind of element, which is a fight or flight and a survival mechanism. And we've come to a time on our planet in which we must remove ourselves from the survival theme, from the king of the mountain conversation. So whenever someone has a very strong competitive energy, you can be sure that under that competitive energy is many subtle and not subtle patternings that have to do with expression of self. Insecurity. I can't be the last one, so I will fight you for it. It's a defense mechanism. We applaud competitiveness in our world, and especially in the United States. May the best man win, quote unquote. We think of it as something that has to do with the yang energy, the masculine energy, therefore more related to men than women. But this is completely inaccurate, because competitiveness isn't just the action of it. I will beat you at the game. I will beat you in the money world. I will beat you in whatever it is. To the women, the primordial to the women. But it can be expressed without people even recognizing that it's going on. In the subtleties of what I would call negative feminine, wherein we manipulate and control and move the pieces around like a chess set in order to win. And so we have many levels of competitiveness, from competitiveness in terms of the body, competitiveness in terms of the emotions, the intellect, the finances, on almost any level, in any direction you look, you will find that. I have found it to be somewhat amusing, but I have seen competitiveness very intensely played out in ashrams and spiritual centers, especially if there is one guy at the head. Then everyone wants to be closest to whoever it is that's at the head. Why? Because somehow, if they win, if they're the closest, if they compete and they succeed, then it means that they are the most wealthy, the most spiritual, the most healthy, the most desirable, the most whatever the most is for any person. And so competitiveness is in play on the planet on absolutely every level. How can we get through this? We can get through it by teaching our children and by amplifying our education, above all our spiritual education, so that our spiritual and emotional education, I should say, so that we can begin to see who are we inside ourselves, not simply the mask that we wear, that succeeds or not in the outside world. So the more that we bring our attention into our own inner truths, the more secure we'll be, the more willing we are to applaud the other person. I find it very important to look at other people and look for their powers, to look for their strengths, and hold that mirror to them. I was taught that as a small child. I did that as a cheerleader. Life is somewhat cheerleading, whether you're the mother or the teacher or whatever. It's look what you have. Amplify what you have. Be at peace with yourself. Know that you are enough, and you will not have to take it, because unfortunately competitiveness very much means I'll take yours. I want what you have. I want to be you, rather than I want to be me. And so if we want to move competitiveness into a place where it can be useful, because competing with the self can be useful. How can I do better? Whether it's how can I love you better, how can I meditate better, how can I be more at peace? There are many ways to amplify and enhance our own qualities by saying, okay, that's how I did it then, now this is how I'll do it now. So that we continually improve our sense of self and the peace that we have with who we are. So, again, the world is set up on the basis of competitiveness. We applaud it. We like the ones who win. We have a fairly universal collective thought form in the United States, which is do it but don't get caught. Which means, you know, if you have to cheat a little bit to get what you want, go right ahead and cheat a little bit. As long as you're not caught, we will applaud you. And we'll look the other way, even if we know that you're doing something that's a little bit not at the highest octave. So we want to transmute the lower octaves of competitiveness into higher octaves in which we are willing to focus and to work to bring forth the best that we can of ourselves and each other.
Kind of on that same theme, given all the energy of change that's going on about right now, I just wondered if it might be possible at this point to issue an invitation for all of humanity to step into at least the rudimentary steps of group consciousness. Because given what we're looking at right now, one of the obvious and easy solutions to that would be moving into group consciousness. Then there wouldn't be this big ta-da about who's going to take what from whom,
That's
or
right.
how we're going to share.
Yes.
It would be taken
And
care of.
in a hopeful or a positive or an inspirational level, let me just say to you, it is happening. It has never happened in the past. We have never combined together except in dire emergencies. Well, this is one of those emergencies that may push us into a global collective consciousness. We haven't really ever learned what that is because we have denied our intuition. We have denied our capacity to listen to the hearts of others. If we listened to the heart, we would not be so reactive to what's coming out the mouth of people, you know. So this is occurring, and one of the things that each of us can do, being aware that it's very necessary to access this level, is to begin to function that way. When you're talking to a person, actually in your consciousness, begin to align with their consciousness. So they're not just two people talking at each other, but actually extend your consciousness so that you can align to their consciousness. So that they can begin to feel, wow, this person understands me, this person is me. This person and I are one. We actually can touch each other. If you do that on an individual one-on-one basis, and then do it anytime you go into a group. And that's why these technologies of consciousness that we teach at Nijoni and the Light Institute, of walking into a group, what color does this group need from me, and extending it, drawing it in from the cosmos, and extending it to them, already begins to open all the little levers that need to open so that our consciousness can flow and link up with each other. So that we can realize that we have a thought and somebody else speaks it. We speak a thought and someone else is thinking it. And we begin to identify and recognize these things. So we must begin to practice group consciousness. Another inspirational aspect for me is that as we are moving, as we are beginning to be aware of the energies in our solar system and beyond, that there are, of course, other beings out there. We can begin to bring to ourselves the wisdom or the ways of being of other civilizations that have been successful around the cosmos. And the more that we open up to that, the more we'll feel ourselves linking up with higher octaves, collective consciousness. And I feel that happening a lot. Feel it happening a lot on simple levels of knowing who's calling you, to very complicated awarenesses of thoughts. And it's interesting when we talk about collective consciousness, it's always important to, when you have this feeling that you're getting an idea or you're linking up to something, to take that one step further, and see to whom are you linking, so to speak. Because it's really important to realize, am I intuitively, psychically connecting with someone I know? Am I psychically connecting with someone who is a soul friend whom I have not met in body? Am I connecting with cosmic energies from other solar systems or other bodies that exist? The moment that you get a sensation, this is an energy that is not an earth energy, or to the contrary, that you are connecting to the consciousness of your animal friends. I'm going to be delivering some keynotes, talks in Switzerland in the fall for several parapsychological societies. And when I was asking my higher self, collective consciousness, higher consciousness, what shall I talk about in terms of our evolution? And one of the things that is easy to practice is to tune in. For example, when I came out of my land tonight, I came across a scat. And the scat was the scat of a bobcat. At first I thought maybe that's a coyote, but it was a cat scat. And as soon as I tuned into that, I could feel the direction and how far away that animal was, and its state of being, And so it made me peaceful to walk out in the night. And now, this animal isn't starving. It's not looking for me or my dogs or anything. It's just here. It's probably gone down, got some water. It's comfortable, and it's just present here. That capacity to feel a truth, a reality, it changes who you are. So I came here after that very peaceful, very expanded in what I'm listening to right now, which benefits me and benefits you, because I'm sitting here with bobcat energy, or better yet, I should say, I am sitting here with the peace of the night, not the fear of the darkness, but the peace of the night. And as I exude that, then you will take that with you. And that's what I mean about collective consciousness. It's anywhere, in any moment, that we simply extend our awareness out with the purpose of linking up, not with the purpose of protection, not with the purpose of winning the argument, but linking up. Then collective consciousness is activated as one of the most powerful and exquisite spiritual capabilities given to all humanity. We are a part of all sentient beings, four-legged, winged, fish, whatever it is. There is an awareness there. And it serves us. It can teach us, it can protect us, it can illuminate us, it can help us to identify our place in the world. When we have a sense of our place in the world, we don't have to compete. Because if we want to take a catapultic leap to the next octave, we just do so. Because we ourselves are ready. Not because someone else is already there or someone's going to keep us from getting there or any of those conversations, but because there is grace, because it is the natural state of life, the evolution of the soul, the evolution on all levels.
Interesting you brought up bobcat energy. I had an amazing bobcat dream a few days ago.
You did.
Yes, but my question is about, dreams in general. Are these stories that go on in the privacy of my sleep, or are they generally more connected to the rest of the world?
What we know scientifically about brain patterns and sleep patterns and dreams is that we usually dream in a fairly light level of alpha, which is still a meditative, light sleeping state. But that state allows our consciousness to expand. What we know is that 99% of the things that come into our consciousness through our dreams are the emotional mind releasing fears, releasing connections to other people's fears, reactions, what ifs, all of those energies that have to do with self-preservation through the pattern of association in the emotional body. So they are necessary to health. If you don't have sleep, if you don't have dreams, you will lose your mind. We learned this in war. So they're very necessary. Now, however, a bobcat could represent, just as a Native American would say, any animal that's your totem represents a quality that you have or something that you are seeking. So there may be something about the bobcat. You may have thought of one or had some flicker in your mind a few days ago that just surfaced. But from my perspective, that it was a bobcat and not a wolf is germane to you. If you are dreaming and you're not dreaming a fear dream, maybe you're communicating or you're just seeing this beautiful bobcat, then there's something in the bobcat that's actually connecting to you. After all, animals know when we sleep. They know when we're sleeping. We are continually bombarding in the astral dimension, which is the devic dimension on its highest levels, which is the spirit of nature, with the consciousness of other beings. So for me, if it was just a dream in which the bobcat walked in, or came by, or there was some connection, looked into your eyes, or whatever, this is a dream that in this dream you were already in theta, you were already in a deeper level, a more expanded consciousness, and there's a relationship. That relationship could have to do with experiences in other lifetimes, as well as this lifetime. It could also be that when we dream, even if you're in delta, which is complete unconsciousness, for example, if somebody has put you in a coma, deep unconsciousness, all that's happening there is that your consciousness expands and embraces more points of reference. So you might have been in that dream actually linking up or connecting to that bobcat, and you may have been sharing information that as a human you would never even think of, like, it's a new moon, therefore there'll be the rabbits will be over here instead of over there tonight. Now, as a human, you might not think that's very important. The bobcat in you might think that's really important, But at any rate, it's a sharing. I was just in Colorado, and my first night there, I saw 3 wolves, 3 gray wolves. They came very, very close through the trees. They stopped, they turned and looked at me, and they gently just walked off. And so I asked a person who has a PhD in that stuff, biology, and he said that, you know, those wolves would have been coming from as far away as the northern mountains, way away from us, Yellowstone. But that I asked them the next day about that, and the person on the ranch said that he had seen a sick wolf and had to kill it just a couple of weeks ago. So my perspective on that is that I was in an altered state of consciousness. I was out of my body. When you're dreaming, you are out of your body. So I was actually out of my body. These were of the pack of that wolf, and they were traveling by. You know, so the same could be true for you in the bobcat. You know, you were out of your body. That allows you to wear the skin of another kind of being and have some meaning for you. So whenever you dream something like that, you just want to say thank you. And then, again, here is where we use our consciousness. You then extend your consciousness to the bobcat. What frequency of light do you need from me? Draw it down, extend it to the bobcat, so that you are participating in the bobcat's health, its well-being, its intuitive capacities, you know, or I should say instinctual capacities. So you can give the gift. Whenever we're touched, especially by nature, it's very important for us to turn around and give the gift back, you know, so that we reweave the structure, the astral structure, the astral dimension, which has been torn apart throughout the Middle Age, from the time of the Middle Ages when we began to use witchcraft to control the natural world. You know? If you've been putting frogs in pots, you now need to shift that around a little bit. Make it up with the bobcat.
So whereabout is will in all of that?
Will then could be the cornerstone of higher consciousness. Because will then would not be forcing it, as we did in the Middle Ages. We forced nature, and we've been doing it ever since. We will make it rain. Here in New Mexico, when we seed the clouds, you know, we actually usually destroy any possibility of rain. I've watched that again and again whenever there are you know, that seeding of the clouds, the plains, the chemtrails, and usually it'll happen after we've been getting some rain clouds. And then what will happen is that nothing will come down. So there's a dance there, there's an exchange that goes on that's actually destructive. So we're still controlling nature as best as we think we can. Will comes when your will is a point of attention and focus. Will is choice. I will focus here, and I will see the possibilities here, and I will align to the highest. So when we call the rain, we are aligning to the highest potential there. We're not forcing it, we're inviting it, so to speak. And so will then becomes that laser point or the arrowhead of your choice and your consciousness. And when you use will in that way, it can balance in such a way that it changes what is real. We think of will as, I will it to be so, you know, I'm going to make it happen. And we applaud that very often. We need willpower to survive in this world. Well, there's another way that's more aligned to all of the potential, that's more effective. Shift your attention, whether that attention is to the consciousness of the bobcat, you know, or the molecules of moisture, or the envisioning something that inspires you. That's the way you want to use will. Which makes will really as a sense of belonging, a sense of purpose. So then that arrowhead can be fast and true and straight, but it has that purpose. But it's not forced. It's not forced. And that's what makes it so, that's what allows that cycle of evolution, life and death, day and night, to occur in perfect balance. Some people say, not my will, thy will. We never have to do that. We don't have to do that religiously anymore, emotionally, spiritually, on any level. It isn't the great spirits or God's will that you have to align to. It's an energy of will that belongs to all. That belongs to all. And when we do that, things just fold in. Life folds in. Consciousness folds in and creates that collective quality that brings us a sense of, again, I seem to like that word tonight, belonging. Yes.
I have a question that folds right into both of those. It's a dream, and in the dream I was doing something. I don't know what I was doing, but there was a sense of purpose. There was a focus in it that was just laser sharp. But in the dream, while I was doing that, as you would call them, these honorable opponents, probably 6 of them, that were serious life honorable opponents for me that are no longer in my existence.
Are they still alive?
Oh, they're still alive,
Okay.
but they're like not
But
in my
they're not in
life.
your sphere.
Not in my sphere, huh?
Yeah.
And I haven't even thought of them probably in over 2 years, or more. They're just not in my daily consciousness. But along that journey, along that purpose, what I was doing, they all came in and gave me gifts to help me complete that. And there was like a loop. I can't really explain it, but and at the end of it, they said something like, "Thank you for coming, Allison," or something like that. I forget what it was, but there was such a feeling of completion with those people.
Yes, exactly.
Is that what was going on with that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The loop, you used the proper word. The loop is the cycling around. In other words, they might have been your honorable opponents because of some multi-incarnational karma that was there. And so because you had focused on some particular task that related to their qualities or their connection to you, you were allowing them to fulfill something. And so that was very powerful for them to contribute, to bring you gifts to contribute to you, because you had finally locked into something that all of you had to do together. And whether they had been, again, sort of in the way at other times, because of this particular alignment of purpose, they were allowed to participate in your life, and they were grateful for that because it freed them karmically and it freed you karmically. I think it's very important to remember that, again, all the people that drive us crazy, whether they're our sexual partners or our blood relatives who can get the closest, or just the petty tyrants who come along and interfere in our lives or push us around, from the spiritual perspective, we have called them in. And so when we release them, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, physically, there's a tremendous burst of energy, an impetus to the spiral of evolution. And so they were grateful for that. They may have been trying to prod and push you into some kind of an awareness, even if they seem to be enacting the opposite. By sometimes enacting the opposite, it allows us to become aware or conscious of things that we were not aware of before, what is true for ourselves. And so in that moment, they can be freed and you can be freed. So you did it in the astral, you did it in the dream. It may have been something that had been coming through the matrix of purpose that you created before you even were conceived. So, you know, in a dream like that, when they thank you and the dream is over and you wake up and you remember it, go back. And this is something that I guess myself would like to contribute here. Go back. Whenever you wake up, whether it's a positive dream or a cosmic dream or a negative dream or an informative dream, once you have the awareness of it, you wake up from it, be sure to clear it from your body, and anybody who's in it, extend light to them, so that you are giving the energy that really allows that astral energy to separate out, so that you can complete projects together. You know, so I would always recommend, where am I holding that dream, whether it's a great dream or a terrible dream, where am I holding that dream in my body? People always think it's in your head, but of the trillions of cells in your body, each one has mind. So each one is connected to that dream. They're infinite thresholds into cosmic awareness. So you want to release that just as we would a lifetime, an incarnation of the soul, so that the points of reference can be dissolved and the energy can come back in a pure form and take you to the next octave. So we want to wake up from a dream, release it from our body, and use our consciousness to see, do I need to extend support to these people now? Do I need to thank them for thanking me? Do I need to free them? So that you use that consciousness to absolutely dissolve away all of the crystallizations of enactment.
Yeah, I have all of those situations. It's sort of because when I first was having negative interactions with that woman that we talked about harvesting from, who was really pretty bad. But there was a bobcat before then, and then this situation happened, and so now we're hearing they talk about bobcats, and also just these petty tyrants type. So when I got here to Santa Fe the other day, all of that was, well, it was already happening, but it actually is probably going well. You know, I mean, whatever. I don't know if I have much longer I need to stay here to have it go well, but I think it's going well. Then in Jackson, but it's interesting just to see the various things that are activated in different places. So
Yes,
that's
of course.
So the negative things here are actually probably going well. You know, I probably. In Jackson, what's basically positive, and the new one still seems very positive. He went to Dallas without me. He called me on the way to Dallas. That was a little surprising, but whatever. I think there's probably a few reasons for that. Just whatever, but I was surprised. That's what I usually do.
Right, soul friends.
Right. So he pointed out all the places that I've been since he, met me a year ago before we were even seeing each other. And he obviously noticed, anyway. But the people that I'm dealing with in business are largely positive, although slow, and not really what I need right now, which is a bit of a problem. I'm not quite sure how to handle that, and whether I need to spend more time in it. The timing wasn't the best because there was a negative eclipse going on. I just don't really know. I mean, or if it's just not a good use of my time, perhaps. I mean, it's hard to say. It's better. I got sick as soon as I got here, so this is not,
Well, you may come home here to clear,
Well,
New Mexico does that for people.
Well, there's an element of that. But it's also the cold, dry air when I'm doing the oxygen and which clearing out a lot of the stress hormone stuff, which tends to suppress the immune system. So it's just not a good time, really, to be in cold, dry air. Unfortunately, that's all. I think there's a logical explanation, but I do think there is clearing. But I also think that it's cold.
Well, let's go back to your conversation.
And then we have New York.
time.
And then we have New York, where that's probably where I'm going this week, assuming I feel anywhere near good enough to do it. But then after I go to New York, I'm not even sure where I should go to after that.
Well,
It's
so
sort of
it's
interesting.
possible that things are in the mix.
Oh, they are.
Mercury's retrograde, so things are in the mix, and so you're not going to know that at this moment.
Right,
And that ties back into whether something's a good time or not.
right,
When we have our goals or we have our balls in play, then we have a very distinct impression about how we should use our time or what is, if something is the right time. But if we expand a little bit and let the other players come in, then what seems like it might not be a good time could actually ultimately become a good time for you. And so what's important there for you to hold that, this is going to become the perfect time. It's all going to fold around, you can stir your pot that way and allow it to perform for you in that way. Because again, what seems like it's not a good time or it's not coming together at any moment may be, as you've heard me say before, your higher self creating critical mass. So one thing is there, but the other thing isn't there, and it's kind of back and forth and back and forth. And so what you want to do is expand with this feminine energy, the
That's
yin
what the
energy.
honor means.
Imagine,
We
yeah,
saw an honor.
imagine that you're not only honoring, but that you're gathering, and that you are embracing all of those elements, so that as they come in, suddenly everything was the perfect time.
Well, so you're thinking that for Jackson?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's no question that I'm seeing a lot of the right people all in the period of a
Yeah.
month, and there's been some good things
Yeah.
happen.
Now, let me just use you as an example there, which isn't about you, but about the fact that somebody went off to Dallas when
Right,
you
yeah,
did it.
that was a big question of mine.
Yeah,
It
well,
was never really answered either.
and it may never be,
No,
but
it's okay.
but it may be that by being away, it avoids something that might have happened that would have not been good.
Possibly, yeah,
That's my sense of it,
yeah,
that it's important to create that space,
yeah,
and so he created that space. And therefore, it's going to open up more thresholds so that when the coming together comes together, it's not going to have any stickum that has to be released.
right.
So, in terms of relationship for all of you, my higher self always says the long rope, which means, if someone needs to travel on, allow them to travel on and use that energy to build that sense of self that then gathers the energy of the person to come back to you. And so, so many times, in the same way we began our conversation tonight talking about people holding on to money, it's the same thing in relationship. If, this is cosmic law, if you hold on, your relationship, your money, whatever it is you're holding, will disappear. It will disappear. And so what you want to do is to know that it's out there, and so that it still is there when the perfect moment to come together is. So we don't have to manipulate it, because especially at this moment right now, with the Mercury retrograde, it would be to our detriment. So this is a moment to let go, let go, let go, let go of relationships, of how we should communicate, of how we should create anything. It's not the manifesting moment. I always call it the tide is out. And when the tide is out, then it's going to build up there, so that if you can hold your consciousness in a high enough octave, when the tide comes in, it's going to bring you all that you were looking for. But when it's out, it says, okay, now you have to pay attention to, what do I need? Is it my meditation? Is it my laughter? Is it my creativity? Is it my dreaming? What is it that I need now for me? And by doing so, you are blanketing. Your auric field is out there, creating that, some people think it's chaotic, but it's creating that vibration which will pull that right back into you. So it's just the time for you. And time, of course, is never linear. It's not the past, the present, the future. It's circulating around in a big curvature. And so you want to use the moment. And I think that's one of the most difficult things for all people to embrace, and that is not to wait for something. When are they going to do it? When are they going to call? When are they going to give it to me? When are they going to appear? To never wait in life, but to use that moment. Here I am. How shall I use my life? Maybe I'm just breathing, maybe I'm imagining something, maybe I'm cleaning my closets. Whatever it is that I'm doing now is necessary. And as I participate, then I create an energy that will bring what belongs to me. Because what doesn't belong to you will never come. Yes.
Did you notice a spike in the energy in here while you were doing that?
Yeah.
Are you wearing that?
Yes, I was.
It blew through the headphones.
I love hearing
It's
that. Tell us.
nuts.
Yeah.
What did you do?
I didn't do anything.
Okay.
Speaking of spikes, could you talk about the amygdalas, the little almond things in the brain, and we wanted to ask you about those.
Well, at the moment, it doesn't come up for me. It doesn't come up for me. The thing about it is that it's a part of the brain, the center, middle part of the brain, that opens the energy. It's part of that weaving that connects the thresholds of realities. And so it can influence the emotions, the amygdala. It can influence the perception of reality. And what we want to do with our brain, because now I was studying all the different parts of the brain, etc., in order to do a book, and then my higher self just threw it all out and said, no. Never mind that right now. What you want to do is, as we had a conversation one time about superimposing the whale's brain, what you want to do is to see the hologram of your brain right now, because then in the same way we were just talking about, the orchestration of time and space. If you are playing over here, you might be triggering a patterning over here that doesn't really serve you. And so right now, what we want to do is open our human brain to the holographic energies. So you want to, instead of thinking, what's this little part doing? Take a look at your brain and let your brain show you what energies are moving, what energies are balanced or imbalanced, what energies are opening. Because again, in terms of psychic connection, we get that at the speed of light. And then it could sit there until we dream it. Or it could sit there for forever, and then it comes up and suddenly we think about something or remember something. And so through that reticular activating system of the brain in the back and the primordial old part of the brain. So what I feel is very important right now is to see your brain as a whole and see that brain pulsing with, for you it might be brilliance, to be able to put the words together for your poetry, or it might be a sense of illumination, of being able to actually have the connection with animals that would serve you at this moment, or somebody who's calling to you or needs you at this moment, and be able to use, I almost don't like the word brain, because we think of it in that way. We think of it as the parts of it, or the neurotransmitters, or the this or the that. And when we do cranials here, and we're moving all the bones of the head, and we're all the fluids in the brain, we're thinking about that brain that is capable of perception on cosmic levels, as well as, can you wiggle your left ear or not? So let's just do an exercise for a moment. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath into your body. And bring your consciousness into your brain. And ask your brain to show you some aspect that supports you at this moment. Again, it might be an area of the brain that's balancing the emotions, or an area of the brain that's stimulating the intuition, or creative thought, or aligning perfectly to the physiology of your body. Just let your brain show you at this moment where and how the energy is inactivated to support your highest purpose. And really allow yourself, whether you see lights flashing or fluids flowing or pulses or pressure or some kind of image, just allow that to occur right now so that you're really focused on your brain. And now take a deep breath and translate that into every cell of your body. Feel every cell of your body experiencing the transmission of that nourishment of your brain. Breathe deeply, really allow that to flow through you. Take a deep breath and open your eyes. See, we are the masters of all of that. We can know intellectually something. But if you will all just look at this face over here, sorry your face isn't on camera, because if you look at that face, all of a sudden there's a tremendous shifting of your energy, your auric field, and there's all this white energy going on, there's an expansion that's occurring. It's invisible. It's invisible. So when you do that, then each part of your brain will function as it needs to function at any moment. You know, when you sleep, some part of your brain is still working. It doesn't serve you on your outside consciousness, but it serves you in your inside consciousness. So that's what we're talking about. The expansion of consciousness, the collective consciousness, the embracing of the potential of us all.